depending on your emunas chachamim in the rabbis of your generation. To the degree that a person shows the proper emunas chachamim in the rabbonim of his generation, that person will be able to say that were he living during that time, he also would have chosen properly. That test applies in each and every single generation. The Shura Kodesh says that when the Torah speaks about the Aseres Hadibros, it says, Anochi v'lo mipi gvura nemra. The first two commandments we heard directly from Hashem. And then the neshamas left, our souls left us because the light was so bright. And then afterwards, Hashem sent Malachim to restore, to do a Tchias HaMesim, to bring the Jews back to life. And the other 611 were given to us by Moshe Rabbeinu. Torah, Tzivalonu Moshe. Torah's Tov Reish Vav Hey is 611. 611 mitzvahs we heard from Moshe Rabbeinu. 2 directly from Hashem. So the Shla Kodesh says this is an opening for each and every single Jew to say, well then the vast majority of Yiddishkeit, I don't have to take that seriously. Because it only came from Moshe Rabbeinu. It wasn't direct from Hashem. 2 mitzvahs, was mamish directly from Hashem. But the rest is coming from a human being, the way many people say. So the Shla Kodesh says, sorry. Hashem anticipated that thought, and by using this term, mipi gvura, this title, mipi gvura is Bigematria Moshe. It just happens to be that that's the title, that's the nickname that Hashem used in giving the Torah. We're told, so that each and every one of us should know that from our perspective, what we heard directly from Hashem and what we hear from Moshe Rabbeinu, we are required to treat it exactly the same respect. Just like Rabbi Akiva, the famous Gemara where it says that one of the rabbis, Rabbi Shimon HaMsuni, darshaned every single S in the Torah. Every single time it says S, he was able to show what that word is coming to include, something additional, until he got to the pasuk Es Hashem Elokecha Tira, and he got stuck. What could you possibly put in the same context that the pasuk says, respect Hashem. Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. What could we say, respect for who or respect for what, could be in the same sentence as Hashem, could be right near Hashem. So the Gemara says, this rabbi said, just like I've taken credit for darshaning all the S's, I hereby take back everything because I'm stuck. I don't know what to say about this. Until the great, great Rabbi Akiva came along, and Rabbi Akiva said, I'm not afraid to say it. I have exactly what to say. Es Hashem Elokecha Tira l'Rabbois Talmidei Chachomim. That Hashem says that Kvoid Rabbi Kichvoid Shomayim. That the respect that a person is supposed to have for his Rebbe is the same respect that he would have for Hashem. Just like the Torah writes, Vayaminu b'Hashem uveMoshe Avdoi. Those two are written side by side in one sentence, right next to each other. No commas, no periods, that Hashem demands and requires that we have that kind of respect. The concept of Ahavas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, there's the concept of Ahava for Talmidei Chachomim, and Yira for Talmidei Chachomim. The Gemara says, Hizoharu begachalton shemotikove, that a Talmid Chacham is like hot coals. To have that kind of fear and respect when dealing with a Talmid Chacham, don't play. Don't realize you could get burned very severely if you don't treat it with the proper respect. So the Shema Kodesh says, okay, we still have an out. Had I been living during the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, no question. Moshe Rabbeinu, just like Hashem, fine, no problem. I'm living 2,000 years later, so I can do whatever I want. And today's Rabbonim, we know what they... So the Shema Kodesh says that we know that all the rabbis, all the words of the rabbis, whether it be the Gemara, whether it be the Shulchan Aruch, whether it be the Rishonim, the Achronim, are all included in the term Midrabanon. When we say Midrabanon, that this item is Midoraisa, Midrabanon. Midrabanon refers to all the different takonos that go from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu till the end of time. The word Midrabanon is Bigematria, Moshe, which is Bigematria Mipi Gvura. For us to know that the concept of attaching oneself to tzaddikim, means that level of respect. That the person who I am learning Torah from, I want to feel, I want to try to make believe as if I were sitting in front of Moshe Rabbeinu. And when a person learns with that kind of feeling, you could imagine the learning penetrates differently, and it has a different effect on the person than the person learning it lahavdil like they're reading a biology, but they're learning any other type of limud. This is part of, when we speak about hiskashrus to a physically living Talmud Chacham or a living tzaddik, we're talking about especially receiving Torah from that person, receiving a derech and avodas Hashem, and then the Torah speaks about the concept of shimush of Talmidei Chachamim, that as much as a person can learn from shiurim, from hearing a shiur or a dvar Torah or the sefer of a tzaddik, living with a tzaddik, attaching oneself, trying to spend every possible moment that a person can in close proximity to the tzaddik, and watching him act, watching him live the Torah, watching him apply the Torah in living terms, that's also a very critical part of this hiskashrus to the tzaddik. I mentioned an example just to give you an idea how this could apply in every field in the concept of halacha. My Rebbe Zichron Avracha, Rabbi Rosenfeld, was involved in Kiruv 50 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. And at one point in time, the fact that he was associated with Breslov was very controversial at that time, 50 years ago. So there was a student that started coming to his shiurim that was not Shomer Shabbos yet. He was just starting, his friends were bringing him to shiurim a little bit, and his father passed away. So he mentioned, people told him a concept of sitting Shiva and Shlut. So he went over to the rabbi and he said, I heard something about Shiva. What is that? What do you do? So he told him, you don't go to work. He told him some basic things. So he asked him, what about Shabbos? Do you sit on Shabbos? He said, yes, of course. Shabbos also. There were people that heard about this, and they said, wow, apikoris, amhoretz, all kinds of interesting words. Now we got him. Now we caught him red-handed. This is something that any Sephardic, Ashkenazic, Teimani, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry Jew knows, that there's no such, you don't sit Shiva on Shabbat, you don't sit on Shabbat, They went and they mentioned this to Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zichron Avracha, that there's a rabbi in Brooklyn, and controversial, and now we finally heard what, he came out with a psak, and can you imagine? He said, who is this rabbi? And they told him the name, and he said that one thing I can assure you, he knows the halacha as well as I do, not one iota less. If he said it, you better go find out why, because there's no problem, there's nothing he overlooked in the Shulchan Aruch. They found out afterwards that the rabbi knew that this particular person, where he was holding in Yiddishkeit, had he been told that he doesn't sit Shiv on Shabbos, he would have gotten into the car and go to work, like he did every week. The rabbi understood what does sitting Shiva means? It means staying home. Doesn't mean putting ashes on your head, no voodoo, nothing, just it means, for this particular individual, it meant not going to work, basically. And he wanted to give this person's father the schus of having his son keep his first Shabbos in life. Now, a person would say, you look in the Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't say that, right? The answer is, there's an expression, there are 4 sections to the Shulchan Aruch. Orach Chaim, Yoredeya, Even Ezer, Choshen Mishpat. The 5th section is the most important one, which is called common sense. That after a person learns all the halachas, the person has to have a seichel, an understanding of knowing how to apply it in real life. And a lot of that comes from shimush chachamim. Not just the written word, but living with a Talmud Chacham, watching how he applies it. The Gemara tells a famous story of one of the greatest rabbis, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who met Eliyahu Hanavi, and he said to him, I know people enjoy going to the Bahamas and St. Martin, all kinds of places. I ain't interested. I want to go with you. I want to travel. I want to go on a trip with you. Eliyahu Hanavi said, no, you don't. You don't want. It's not good for you. The rabbi insisted until Eliyahu Hanavi was forced to agree.